Good evening, everyone. Today, I want to talk to you about building legacy wealth, building for today and for tomorrow. But before I go, I want to quickly talk about, this disclaimer. All the views that are going to be expressed in this presentation is for informational purposes only. This is not to constitute any form of offer to sell or to solicit to buy any specific product, whether it's insurance or anything of that nature. The statement expressed in here are not intended for you to provide you with any form of tax, legal, or financial advice. Under no circumstances should they be, be construed as a have to solicit, to act as a security dealer or an insurance specialist or an investment broker in any jurisdiction. We're just pretty much trying to give information so that people can become, more financially aware of things that are going on in their society. My name is Bisi Ogunle, but what do I have to be able to start talking to you about this? I'm a financial professional. I graduated with a master's in finance from Cranfield School of Management, United Kingdom. I have experience of over 15 years working across different, continents. I'm very passionate about financial education. How do we change the society, giving them empowerment and knowledge, and then talking about entrepreneurship. I lead a group of people working under the organization of Bisi Ogunle Financial Services, LLC. We have different, licenses and stuff like that. We are present in about 7 provinces now in Canada and 24 states in the US, if I'm being specific. And some of the concepts that I'm going to be discussing here today are things that I use personally for myself, my family, and friends. Over the last couple of years, we've had mention either by myself or my organization in some of these, news outlets. But today, what I want to focus my attention on is how can we help people to build a solid financial foundation? We want to help people to build solid financial foundation as the blueprint for them to be able to build wealth into the future. Many people today, the only protection that they have is their annual income. If they have any medical challenge that allows them, that forbids them to be able to work, they lose the opportunity to earn income and they don't have anything to fall back on. So we want to help people to understand that the goal they're supposed to be working towards in the event something were to happen, maybe premature death, health challenges, and all of that, is to think about 10 times to their annual income. The goal is to be able to help people to become 100% debt-free over a period of time. So we teach debt management and we help people to understand the process of how they can do debt roll-up or snowball strategy. Talk about emergency fund. When people are in a place where they need emergency, they're either doing crowdfunding or asking people to be able to lend them money. We want to help people to put money aside for monthly expenses and ultimately help people to understand how to build income into the future. But you see, what I want to talk to people about today is the human life value, thinking about our financial timelines. There's a time to be born and there's a time that we're going to pass. But in between cradle and grave, so many things are going to be packed into those places. For example, many of us, like myself, we have young children who will need to go to school at some point in the future. College education is not free. Most parents in America today cannot afford to send their kids to school. A lot of people rely on student loan. We want to talk to people about this. How can they do better with that? When people get out of school, they get job and then begin to get pension, 401k, 403b, IRA, and the rest of them. A lot of people do not understand how this thing works, especially now that there's a lot of financial challenges that people are dealing with. We talk to people about that as well. People get married. When they get married, they begin to raise family. With family comes, new responsibility, food, clothing, shelter, etc. When people are in this space, because they're working from one paycheck to another paycheck, they cannot make ends meet. So they have to rely on other people's money using credit card, line of credit, or personal loans from different banks. And people want to buy their first home, they have to rely on mortgage. So between student loan, car loan, or credit card, personal loan, and mortgages, debt has now become a way of life. And a lot of people are wallowing under the weight of debt that they don't seem to understand how to move forward. This is the reason why we teach debt management in our financial education program. We talk to people about what they need to do because life continues up until a time when people get to retirement. But the truth of the matter is, what happens if we don't get to that point? What if we pass away prematurely before that time? Now, the income that the family is relying on because of somebody who is healthy and able to work, if the person passes away prematurely, that income comes out of the situation. And then we need to start thinking about how does the family survive? So we help people to understand that they need to plan for the future and put money aside to be able to protect their family. Heaven forbids that we die, but what if we get sick? Then we need to talk about how do we begin to take care of things? The responsibilities that would be half if we were to die is there. But now that we're not dead and we're sick, we need to think about who's going to pay the medical bills, who's going to pay the house bill, who's going to pay this, who's going to pay that. We talk to people about, do we begin to care for ourselves into the future, put bright money aside for healthcare reasons, whether it's critical illness or, long-term care or terminal illness or chronic illness or any of those kind of stuff. And then finally, we talk to people about, I pray that we don't live too long. People say to me, what do you mean by that? If we don't have enough money to be able to take care of ourselves in old age, it's going to be a miserable life. So we need to be able to think about where we're going to find money for the rest of our lives. It does not matter whether it's a long life or a short life, whether it's a great life or a hard life because of medical condition. Everybody is going to die at some point. And when we pass away, there is something that is called estate process that comes into the process. So I want to sit down to help people to understand all of these different phases of our lives that we need to prepare for financially, so that by the time we get to that point, either us or our family or our loved ones will not be financially challenged. This page here is just pretty much asking people, where are you today in the journey of your finances? Many of us have young children. We need to take care of their education. We need to take care of shelter, food, auto, and all of those kind of stuff. If something were to happen to us, because most of these things we're buying them on credit. We go to school on loan. We buy houses on mortgage. We buy cars on auto loans and all of that. As we grow old in life, we expect that our debt responsibility will go down, but we also need to build wealth. Now, the risk of inflation, market risk, taxes, health challenges comes in. As we grow into the future and get older, the goal is to be able to have financial independence. So how can we make sure that we take care of all of these things? We need to be able to protect ourselves in the event that we die too soon, or protect ourselves in the event that we live too long. Which brings me to ultimately what every one of us is trying to achieve, building wealth for the long run. I'm going to use this cycle here to describe what I'm trying to talk about here. Most people are investing, whether putting money in their 401k, putting money into their investment plan like IRA and the rest of them, mutual funds, whatever it is that you're investing money in today. Cash is going into that. But the challenge with that is the fact that there's another thing that they will have to deal with. A lot of people are buying real estate, setting up business ventures. People are hoping that in the future, they can take equity out of those things to be able to take care of things for themselves. If you are putting money into an investment, you have to deal with the challenges of taxes that can catch up with us when that time comes. If you are one that is thinking about real estate and all of that, you have to deal with the challenges of debt. What if I can't meet up with my debt repayment? What something happens to me and all of that? How can we help people in this space? Whether the person is investing or the person is investing in assets like real estate or businesses, what I want to help people to understand is, can we find tax advantage investment strategy to be able to help the people to minimize the amount of taxes? Or can we be able to find proper protection that helps people to be able to hedge all their assets that are using other people's money to invest them into the future? So in talking about that, I also want to talk about what are the things that we can achieve here. Living benefit. What if I have terminal illness or I have critical illness in the process of me investing into the future? How does that have impact on the things that I'm trying to build? retirement supplement, tax-free living benefit. Let's talk about, okay, how do I transfer the estate that I'm trying to build? Building family trust, doing will preparation, power of attorney, and health directive. These are the way to build legacy wealth for people to understand what they're supposed to do. But this summary will not come into being if we don't understand the next couple of things that I'm going to be talking about. The first thing is we need to understand how money works. There's a formula that is very simplified to understand how money works, because money does not grow on tree. You must work for it. And if you want to build wealth, there's a formula that you can build on. You have to have a certain amount of money. You have to have a time horizon that you're working with. Depending on the rate of return that you get on your investment, how much inflation is in the market today, and what tax bracket do you belong to? And that would determine how much wealth you can build into the future. So I know for us to be able to build wealth, we need money, we need time. So I'm going to be focusing on two major things that we can control today, which is one, where can we find good rate of return on our investment? And then talk a little bit about how does taxes affect, our asset. You have to know this. You need to build for a long time before you can be able to generate wealth. And then we don't have any control over inflation, but we must be able to outpace inflation by the returns that we get on our investment. I look at 100 or so years of S&P 500. One of the biggest investment index in America today is Standard & Poor's 500. And I'm looking at about 100 years of this asset class in terms of investment strategy, what it has done. It has good upside, but it also has, the downside to it. We need to understand how rate of return works when we're investing in places where market volatility affects our asset, for us to understand, this chart that I'm showing you. But let me show you an example of what that looks like in a 20-year period, looking at Nikkei, one other index in Japan. Let's look at 2009 backward 20 years and see where the index, sort of closed. Let's say this person invested $1,000 in 1989 for the next 20 years leading to the year 2009. What would that look like given the volatility that happened in that market for the next, 20 years? If you put $1,000 in that market in 1989, and by the end of 2009, that market is about, the money will be about $271.01. Now, I'm not trying to scare anybody here. We don't have that situation in America when we look at what the last 20 years of S&P 500 has been. But what if something were to happen in the future and then you find yourself in this situation? What's going to happen? So we want to begin to help people to understand that we need to know how we're investing our asset, where we're putting our money, so that we can begin to see things differently. The next thing I want to talk about is taxes. Think about the last 100 years or thereabout of taxes across the United States of America. This is the federal marginal tax rate. What if I told you there was a time in America when people were paying over 50% of their income in taxes? Following the World War II, Great Depression, and in the Korea War, tax rate was at an all-time high. We're at an all-time low right now. But given what has happened in the last 2 to 3 years with COVID, the amount of debt that the government has today, who do you think is going to be paying for all of this when the time comes into the future? So if you want to understand how taxes work, you need to know where is the money that you're investing being put. There are 3 major classifications of how taxes work in America today. There's the part that is called tax now, which is bank accounts, CDs, stocks, mutual fund. These are taxed at capital gain taxes. What does that mean? The amount you put into the investment plus the amount that you got out of it. What is the difference between the amount you invested and how much you gain? That amount that you gain is called capital gain and is taxed at whatever your capital gain tax rate that is applicable to you as an individual. There is also the tax later account where you put your 401k, 403b, your IRAs, annuity, and other pension plans. Those are taxed 100% at what your income tax rate is. And then the third part, which is the tax advantage asset, an asset like, Roth IRA, municipal bonds, 529 plans, and 7702 plans. These are assets that are often, overlooked by people because people don't know so much about them and they are not taxed, at all, or they are called tax advantage accounts. Why pay more taxes than you need to pay if you understand how this works? So we want to look at this bucket. What are the things that you have in this bucket? Roth IRA, municipal bond, and life insurance, death benefit, proceeds, loans, and withdrawals. These are generally distributed tax-free, depending on how, the strategies that you run. You can be able to do that. The question is, are you making good use of this bucket for yourself and your family? Let's talk a little bit more about the different, classes of asset. I'm not going to be talking about municipal bonds right now because we don't see so much of that outside there at the moment. What do you know about Roth IRA? What is Roth IRA? A Roth IRA is a type of an individual retirement arrangement that provides you with tax-free growth and tax-free income in retirement. When you put money in Roth IRA, it is not tax deductible like the one you put in your IRA or your 401k or any other pension plan. However, when you contribute money into it, the contribution that you put, that is the money that you put, the actual cost basis, you can withdraw it at any time without any form of penalties, and it is going to be tax-free. But the gains that you have above and beyond the amount of the money that you put inside, when you take that out, it can be taxable, and it can also attract penalty if you draw it before the age of 59 and a half. All right? So when you have a certain income threshold, once you earn above $153,000 and above as an individual and as a couple jointly filing taxes, if you both earn $228,000, you cannot contribute money into Roth IRA. In this year, 2023, the contribution limit for Roth IRA is $6,500 for those who are below the age of 49. Anybody that is 50 and above can only contribute $7,500 per annum into Roth IRA. I know a lot of people have been hearing about Roth IRA and they're wondering how does that work and all of that. These are the things that you need to know. Regardless of whatever investment vehicle that you put your Roth IRA fund into, if you put money into it, no matter how much income you revenue or gains rather you generate on it, you do not have to pay taxes on the returns. Now let's go and talk about how we're going to plan the future with, planning with the future in mind. I want to talk to us about life insurance. And life insurance has different functions. And that's what we're going to be exploring going forward. But before I go, I will talk to you about watching this next video, which is going to help you to understand what is the basis of what I want to talk about when it comes to, life insurance. Please let me know if you hear this out.
We don't tell the right stories. Or when we do, we tell them wrong. We focus on the wrong parts. Like there's a story we like to tell ourselves about life. In the story, we will grow up, go to college, have a career, get married, have a family, grow old, and when, after a very long life, it is time to get our affairs in order, life will let us know. As if death will be so kind as to warn us, he will inform us, like when at the end of a trip, a text arrives, an alert to our phone that says, say your goodbyes, tend to your home, contact your lawyer, settle your affairs. We believe that story to be true until we are blindsided by heartbreak that seems so unfair. Beneath so much debt, it is a struggle just to get air. Everything was fine, and then out of nowhere, the phone rings. A siren wails. We crash straight into a doctor's chair. As the hair on our neck stands up, we stand up unprepared as she pulls the air from our lungs so we can't speak. We listen as she says the words, critical condition, terminal, hit and run. It's in his lungs. You are dying, and there is nothing to be done. And when we tell the story of life insurance, that's the story we tell. We focus on death, the tragedy, the sadness, but that's telling it wrong. And I'm not saying there isn't pain or heartache or sacrifice. Of course there is. That's life. Those things happen for the same reasons tooth fairies and sunsets and great wine and grandchildren happen. And that's life. It's not that the tragedy isn't there. It's that it isn't all that's there. There's so much more. I mean, in all this hopelessness, hope is. But to see it, we have to shift our focus. Like standing in the middle of a burnt out forest, only we don't notice. Instead, we are drawn to where a perfect blue crocus lifts up its head to remind us that on the most tragic days, after we are dead and gone, life will find a way to go on. I mean, sometimes what happens in a moment stays with us for years, and yet the living must lift the head. Persevere. That is why at some point in the middle of all those tears, a laugh, a memory finds its way out. And when it is needed most, a check appears with a memo line that may as well read, "Despite the fact that my body is no longer here, I still am. My love lives. Even though I don't, my presence will be present. Even though my body won't. As sure as death is part of life, life is also part of death. So when your last exhale will wait no more, your loved ones will pick it up from the bottom of your lungs, place it lovingly onto their own, and complete your breath. The heart can stop beating, even as it refuses to. The body can stand tall, even as it is laid to rest. But it will only if you choose to ensure that a check will check on them on your behalf for years after you've left, because the answer is no. When the question is, are you interested in preparing for your death? But when the question is, do you want to take care of your family? The answer is always yes. If you ask my dad about dying, he will tell you he doesn't worry about his final resting place. He worries about my mother and paying the mortgage so she will finally have a place to rest without worry. My friend told me he had one thought as his son raced to the hospital at 3 a.m. with him in the back seat struggling to breathe. He thought, what will happen to my son if I die? I mean, that's life. He told me later. He said, that's how it works. Real love means it happens to you both. We don't buy car insurance for when we get hit. We buy it for when we hit someone. We don't buy life insurance for when we die. We buy it for when they don't. We buy it because when we love someone, we want to protect them from any added despair, any hardships that can be spared, to experience the happiest moments, even when we won't be able to experience them beside them. And it gives us comfort to know if we aren't able to have those moments, we can provide them. I mean, moments like walking down the aisle, right? Or the first grandchild born, moving into your new dorm, eating together as a family, hanging pictures on the wall of your first home. In all of those moments, Dad is here, Mom is with us, Ethan lives. It is because of Susan this was possible. In all of those moments, we are none of us alone. This is not about memories, but what our lives are able to become. This is about understanding that when you love someone, you do whatever you can to help them, to hold them, to enfold them in the truth of this immutable fact. Life insurance is the final loving act of a person who at the end didn't see flashes of his own life. Instead, he saw the future he wanted for his parents, his kids, his wife, and he knew that if their pain could somehow be lessened, their load perpetually lightened, then perhaps their grief will be less sharp than it might have been. And by preparing for what might be, despite being frightened, it's like taking your loved one softly by the wrist, holding out the life insurance as a gift and saying, This is for all the flowers I would have bought. These are pennies for all of our children's thoughts, the mortgage for the house we finally got. I don't know if it's enough, babe, but it's a lot. Please use it to make the life we dreamed about exist. And if our kids ever wonder if I love them, you give them each a kiss while clenching this life insurance policy in your fist, and you tell them there is no doubt he loved us. He did this.
Every time I listened to that video, it changed everything in me, because it's just an incredible way of describing what that instrument can do for us. You see, in America today, these are the different types of life insurance that are out there. The first type of insurance that was brought into, consciousness for everybody was term insurance. This was way back when people passed away early because of different, communicable disease and all of that. Different communicable diseases that were out there, people's life expectancy was very short. And a lot of people complained that it was too, much of stuff. They want a permanent life insurance because as medical advancement get better, whole life came in. And then Things changed in the market. Universal Life came in. With that change, other stuff, variable, universal life insurance came in. And a lot of people started complaining about that. Then insurance company looked at, okay, what are the flaws that each of the previous insurance have? And let's fix that. And then they came up with Index Universal Life Insurance in 1995. It's the newest type of life insurance that is out there in the country today. And recently, they added what we call a long-term care living benefit rider, to that kind of plan. And that is what you can see here today. Life insurance can pay you death benefit. Because I hear a lot of people talk about life insurance, and the only thing I hear them talk about is death. Yes, we will all die, but the people that we love will continue to live, and that's okay, because we need to protect them even in death. That is what the vow, we talk to them about. I'm going to share with you a situation of a gentleman that I was able to help him put a policy in place just last year, 2022. This person, we put policy in place for him in June of 2022. And sadly, he passed away in December of 2022. We were able to get his wife and his children $700,000 from, the life insurance company. Even though the man is no more around, but the life insurance company giving a check of $700,000 to the family helps to save them into the future. This is another check that was handed out, in March of this year to a family that the husband passed away. This is somebody that I know personally. This is one of our friends who were in this business together. He came out and went to work. Sadly, on his way back home, that Thursday afternoon, he was involved in an accident, and a 18-wheeler truck ran into him, and then he didn't make it. We were able to give the family $1.6 million of check in the first week of April. What it is planned if we were to become critically ill or disabled? In America today, Center for Disease Control, CDC, says that there are some chronic diseases in America today that are the leading causes of death or disability. And that is the highest driver of the nation's healthcare costs. What are these things that they are talking about? Heart disease, cancer, chronic lung disease, stroke, Alzheimer, diabetes, and kidney disease. And their finding says that 6 out of every 10 person as an adult will have one of these conditions. I don't know how many of us on this call today, but think about the statistics. 1 out of every one of us, 6 out of every 10 of us here would develop this kind of situation. 4 out of every 10 person in their adult will have 2 or more of this situation. When I look at the causes of bankruptcy, American Journal of Public Health says the highest bankruptcy that is declared is as a result of medical issues. Most times, 66.5% of the time. That is what, that is. Let's think about what is happening in the market today. Right now in 2023, it is estimated in America that 1.958 million people will develop a new cancer case, with about 609,000 people dying from cancer this year. But the good thing is this: medical technology is getting advanced. People are getting to be able to survive even when they have medical issues. I was talking to a friend the other day, and he says, my wife survived stage 3 cancer. I went to visit one of my very good friends recently who's been diagnosed with cancer. But you know what? Are they able to survive financially because they are not as strong? They cannot walk, they cannot do stuff, right? In America today, about 70 million people have one or more type of cardiovascular disease. There are over 9.6 million people that survive cancer in America. So what are we going to do when people get to the point where they survive, but they cannot walk the kind of work that they need to do? They cannot afford to pay for their hospital bills and all of that. If you have a life insurance that has living benefit, this is an hypothetical situation of a case that, this is a case that was reported. And Think about this. This person bought a policy at age 40. By 48, she was diagnosed with heart attack. But because of accelerated death benefit rider of a chronic or critical illness situation, this person was advanced at least $125,000 out of the 250 death benefit so that she can be able to take care of herself. This is another situation. When this person had a critical situation where the person was involved in a major accident, he bought the life insurance at the age of 50 for $1 million, but because of an accident at age 55, just 5 years later, out of that $1 million, $559,000 was advanced to him as, accelerated death benefit to be able to take care of things for himself. This is one check that I paid to somebody, or I handed over to somebody who did a policy with us. And this was, in May of this year. This person was diagnosed with a terminal, cancer situation. We were able to get money for his family to be able to take care of things for him. Eventually passed away, but they were able to take care of things, for him. The question that I want to ask you, friends, here today is, where do Americans keep their money? I'm thinking what you're thinking. Most people put their money in the bank. What are the banks doing with the money that you give to them? Number one, most banks are putting money in cash value life insurance as where they put their core capital. There's this book called Money, Wealth, Life Insurance that was written in year 2013 by a gentleman that is known as Jake Thompson. You can get the book and you can read it. It's a fantastic book for you to look at. This book talks about how cash value life insurance plays a massive role in financial institution cooperation. More than you can ever imagine. It says that the organization buy life insurance by the billions and they use it for many different reasons. When a bank owns one, it is called BOLI. When a corporation owns it, is called COLI. These are the major, banks that we have in America today. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, and US Bank. These guys have asset in life insurance asset in billions, not in millions, in billions. And there are also corporate organizations that are named as those who use life insurance to be able to do stuff. I will talk a little bit more about the corporations later on in my presentation, but I want to show you something. I look at the balance sheet of all of these three major banks, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and Chase Bank. As at 2022, I haven't looked at it for 2023, as at 2022 end of, fiscal year, which is March 31st, 2022, their balance sheet shows life insurance asset of about $20 billion for Wells Fargo, over $24 billion for Bank of America, and over $12 billion for Chase Bank. Why do banks put money in life insurance? When the mortgage crisis of 2008 happened, there was a lot of banks that went down, especially with Lehman Brothers going down. Everybody was, panicking and all of that. There was an inquisition at Capitol Hill. The congressmen and women called different bank MDs to come to Congress, and they were asking them questions. Where do you guys keep your, tier one capital? Tier one capital is what is known as the core of the bank capital. It is the very core of all banks, the bedrock, the foundation, and the structural steel on which their foundation is laid. The larger a tier one capital is, the stronger the bank is. The primary purpose of the capital is to be able to cushion the bank in the event of adversity or to support their balance sheet so that they can be able to do larger deals. That is the lifeblood of the bank. And most of these banks put those monies in cash surrender value of a bank-owned life insurance. They can put it on their balance sheet because it is allowed. So let's think about, what are other corporations doing? Think about large corporation and small business owners. Let's think about this. Look at the list of different corporations that you can see here. We're talking about General Electric. We're talking about, Procter & Gamble, Nestle, General Motors, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer. We're talking about Office Depot, Starbucks, Avon, Comcast, Verizon, talking about CVS, Nike, talk about Walt Disney, Amway, Harley Davidson. All of these organizations have life insurance that they use to build their business to whatever it is today. For example, if we look at the case of JCPenney and Walt Disney, these are testimonials that are available as to the power of life insurance. When J.C. Penney, the owner of the current multi-billion-dollar empire and retail store today that is just J.C. Penney, when the man was looking for how to make sure that he can keep his business going during the Great Depression, he wrote in his, in his book that one of the reasons why he was able to keep the empire together is him borrowing on his $3 million life insurance policy so that he can be able to make his business rebound and stabilize the business. We all know what is the situation with JCPenney today. Think about Walt Disney. Walt Disney was looking for, financing to start what we know now as Disneyland that is in Anaheim, California. And every financier already said that this man was too extended, is heavily geared. They were not ready to give him money. He sold so many of his assets, and then put everything together, but he was still lacking the enough money that he needed. But he took $100,000 loan from his life insurance policy so that he can be able to start what we now know at Walt Disney. And we all know what that does for the American economy, given the size of that business today. So let's talk about other organizations that have used life insurance. Stanford University is one of the ones that I would like to talk about. The gentleman that started Stanford with his wife, Leland and Jane Stanford, they had lost their son, Leland Jr., because of typhoid fever. And they were looking for, how can we begin to think about how we help other children? So they wanted to start a facility like a university or a college or a place where people can begin doing research. So they started the school to be able to help other children. And now Leland died. And then the company, the school ran into trouble. It was the life insurance proceeds that was paid to Jane that she used to be able to pay for the operations and pay the faculty for the next 6 dangerous years of financial distress that university was in. But today, each and every one of us want our children to be able to go to Stanford University. If we think about small business owners, what are the key concerns that they have? People are thinking about how are they going to have a comfortable retirement? How can they attract and retain top talent? How do I ensure that my business continues to thrive if I were to lose a major employee? How will my business interest be protected, and how will I ensure that my family is well provided for if something were to happen to me? People are thinking about how they can transition the ownership of their business. These are things that, business owners are thinking about. With a very good instrument called life insurance, we can help people to be able to put all of this in perspective and help them to do things a little bit better. People are using life insurance as working capital. I took excerpt from this book that is called The Laser Fund, talking about Index Universal Life Insurance, how many savvy professionals are using money from their life insurance as working capital to provide them with significant advantage over the traditional method. When people are putting money away in the bank and not generating enough return, people put money in life insurance, they generate a significant amount of return, they borrow money against it and go and use it for their business. People are using life insurance as exit strategy to be able to plan how they're going to get out of business. In the event of death, they can use it to transition their asset to their loved ones. In the case of retirement, they have enough money that they can be able to leverage to be able to take care of things for themselves. And talk about, if a partner dies or becomes disabled, this is something that, business owners have been able to leverage. People are using life insurance to talk about how they can use it as, leveraging to do real estate. But what I want to share with you more about today is something that a gentleman that is known as Don Blanton, the president of Money Tracks, talk about having the benefit of having cash equity in your life insurance instead of having home equity that you cannot access. What was this gentleman talking about? When he mentioned this, I read this, and I just thought I need to share with people. He was talking about how Hurricane Katrina destroyed the entire of, that Louisiana region, and many people lost their homes. A lot of people have finished paying off their mortgages and they're sitting on equity and thinking in the future, this is what we're going to retire on. However, when Hurricane Katrina came, destroyed all their equity, left them at the mercy of lawyers and adjusters for the insurance company, and now they begin to go back and forth. Many of them, what the insurance was offering is way less than the amount of money that they built into their asset. But other people who instead didn't just pay off their mortgage, they put money in a cash value life insurance and build a heavy war chest in that place while they're still paying their mortgage. They had the chance to be able to take money out of their life insurance and then go and start their life somewhere else, building another house, taking contract and all of that to be able to put money down, build a new house while other people are still struggling with whatever it is. And that changed a lot of things for them because why? They now know that they can take advantage of their life insurance cash value instead of equity that was wiped away in their house. Think about what is going on in Maui, in Hawaii today. That's another thing that changed, the landscape of things for people. Let's talk a little bit about retirement use of life insurance. In 2016, there was this particular headline that was in major newspapers about how cash value life insurance makes Coach Harbaugh the highest paid college football coach in the entire of North America. University of Michigan had employed Jim Harbaugh to be their coach, but the guy renegotiated his compensation plan to include a very creative, a deferred compensation alternative that we use a cash value life insurance. Anybody that wants to read a little bit more about it can, Google this and read more about that. But what I want to highlight here is this. Most people don't know that what was done for him, it was designed to provide Harbaugh with millions of dollars of tax-free cash during his retirement. That same strategy can be done for anybody at a much smaller case, depending on what that person wants to do for himself. I want to show us something that is really very intriguing. This that you are seeing on the screen right now is a statement from General Electric balance sheet. This is the website where I downloaded the statement for. That is the end of year 2016 asset of, GE. And it shows how they pay their executive. This is executive compensation. When they want to pay their executives, instead of paying them into their retirement savings plan, they put the money into the life insurance instead. Why is that? Two major reasons why they would do that is because they give them executive compensation bonuses that allows them to be able to perform better, but instead they put it in life insurance. So what are they trying to do? When a company gives a bonus to a client, they don't pay taxes on that. That's a tax deductible expense for them because it's a payroll expense. So they remove that from the profit or the gross income that they make so that they pay less taxes. And they tell IRS, go and meet XYZ or ABC. We paid him, so amount of money. He's supposed to pay taxes on it. But ABC or XYZ did not take the money. Instead, they put it in a life insurance. Life insurance is a tax deferred and tax exempt instrument that you don't have to pay taxes on. If you know anybody that works in GE, please ask them, do they get paid like this? I have a few friends that work with GE, and I know that they don't get paid like this. The government allows corporations to become discriminatory when they decide to do this. So if you're a business owner and you're seeing what I'm talking about here today, or you get to see this, recording sometime in the future, there's something that you can do for yourself that allows you to be able to take advantage of life insurance to compensate yourself in the way that it works for you personally. As I go forward, let's talk about the advantage of taxes. What are the tax benefits that life insurance can give to you? Remember this graph that I showed you at the beginning, over 100 years of taxes of how this kind of just works. Let me show you a scenario, hypothetical situation, by the way, of how tax planning from the beginning, when it comes to investing, how you think about how taxes will affect your income in the future and you begin today, what would that look like? Think about this scenario. This guy wants to be able to have $300,000 in the future for his retirement purposes. What he does is to put money in a place where it helps him using tax now, tax later, and tax advantage instrument. What does that guy do? Is to say, What if I put the money in a place where I'm just going to get taxed 100%? Let's say this person puts in a retirement account that gets taxed 100% today. Out of the $300,000 that the man wants, is going to have to pay about 28% or there about 29% of that money in taxes, leaving him with just about $213,000 out of the money that he would have prepared for his retirement. But if you understand how this bucket works, this person will now know that if he decides to diversify in a tax later or tax advantage account using the knowledge of taxes into the future, what this person can do automatically is $100,000 from different places. He effectively cut his taxes by almost half, leaving him with extra $40,000 in his pocket. Extra $40,000 is about $3,000 on a monthly basis, just a little bit over $3,000 on a monthly basis, tax-free. That is something that a person can use to, better his or her situation in that instance. But what if we can do better? Because a lot of people always ask me, BC, if I'm not going to pay any form of taxes in the third bucket, why don't I just lump all my money into that place so I know I'm not going to pay any form of taxes? I'm sorry, you cannot 100% run away from paying taxes. However, you can reduce or minimize the amount of taxes that you're going to pay. So let's look at a scenario where this guy decides to put money in a place that he can be able to manage taxes better. And then it's able to take 50 from the first place, 50 from the second place, and $200,000 from the second place. It pays state and federal taxes in the first two scenarios, but in the third case, there's no state and there's no federal. Because of that way and diversification, this person is now able to keep more money in his pocket, having about $282,000 after tax income, compared to when the person took it from that $72,000 or thereabout more. That's about $6,000 extra on a monthly basis that the person can put in his pocket, reducing taxes to a single digit. Comparing the three of them, in this instance, this person is able to, the first scenario, the person pays about 29% in taxes. The second person pays about 16% in taxes, while the third scenario pays just slightly over 6% in taxes. I don't need to ask you, but I would have to ask you, if you are somebody in this situation, which of the three scenarios would you want to be? For me, I want to be in scenario 3. So the question is this: are you making the most of that particular situation for yourself? How does that work? Think about this. Life insurance is a very surprising tax efficient vehicle. A lot of people don't know how it works. Consider adding another tax efficient vehicle into your portfolio today. A cash value life insurance can provide you with 3 things. Tax-free death benefit in the event that you pass, your loved ones will get that. But it can also give you what we call a tax-free supplemental income later in the future, while all your investment in that life insurance is growing tax deferred and you're not paying any form of taxes on it. It is important for us to begin to think about this. Let's think about how this can work for children. We call this $1 million baby. If you look at a situation where you illustrate for a child, and then we look at, oh, how does this work? Let's say this child at birth, the family decides to put some money into this, and then they keep putting money into that on a regular basis. This was illustrated for the parent to be able to put $400 aside every month. At first, they put a first injection of $1,000 into that policy up until age 18. By the time the child gets to the age 18, total sum that will be put into that policy is $87,400. They don't have to put anything again. And that, if the child decides that she wants to go to school, there's an opportunity to take some money out of that, to be able to go to school into the future. If the child does not take money out of it, the money can continue to grow on a monthly basis going into the future. By the time that child reaches the age of 65, which is retirement age, what we have in that policy will be about $2 million of cash. Remember when I was talking to you guys about volatility in the market? where S&P shows different stuff. I want to bring the example of this back again because I try to help people to understand how index strategy works to be able to help people to keep more money in their pocket. What does this mean? Look at nickel that we look at the beginning of the year losing money, and then he ended up at 275. If you have today an index cash value index universal life insurance with a cap of 13% and a fall of 0.75, compared to you just being in a market where volatility stops your market, this person will end up with about $2,545.79 in his account. Again, I don't need to ask you this question, but think about this. Between $271 and $2,500, if you were to have that return based on the investment that you did 20 years ago, which one would you want to be? So I'll show you an example of an index universal life insurance that we did for somebody, where that person put money in his own account, and even when the market was not doing really well, the person didn't lose money. Instead, they were able to preserve their principal. This statement shows May 2021 to May 2022. And in that instance, what did this tell us? It showed us two things. Number one, at the beginning of 2021, the cash value that was inside that policy was $236,013.43. The person didn't put so much of premium inside again. Why? Because they have already front-loaded the policy and put a significant amount of money into it. So they don't have to put policy premium inside again. Only about $1,012 was put inside. The total interest that was credited was about $29,857 because the market did very well in year 2021 going into 2022. And taking about monthly deduction and all of that, how the cash value that was in this account ended at about $259,303.27, which is the beginning of the following year. You and I know that S&P 500 lost about 20% in the market in year 2022, closing at a negative of 19.78 or thereabout. Think about this. About 20% loss to $256,000. I'm sorry, $259,000 would be about maybe $208,000 would have been what the market would have settled, losing almost $46,000 of that account. But here is this. Look at what happens here. This person did not even put anything. They got small interest because they have a floor of 0.75. After paying the charges, the account value is still at $253,743. If the market goes up next year, the market, the money keeps going back up. So you're not losing money, but you are preserving your principal and your gain such that you have peace of mind. What can you do with cash value life insurance? The first thing is you want to be able to grow your money. Because when you put money inside an investment, you want to grow it so that you can be able to fight against inflation that is going to erode the power of your money. Whether you have cap or non-cap strategy, you can run that. So money grows as you put money in there. The second thing is you want to be able to have safety. What are you trying to have safety against? I want to be able to protect myself against market losses, such that when I put money there, there's contractual guarantee that I will never lose my money due to any form of market decline. But also, I want to be able to have tax advantage. Why do I want to have tax advantage? I want to minimize the amount of money that is going to go away from me, even when I'm building my wealth. You have tax-deferred growth and you have tax-free access to your money, either through withdrawal or what we call wash loan. And finally, because it's a life insurance product, it has protection. What does life insurance protect? It protects our income. Don't forget what I said at the beginning. The ability to be able to care for our families because we can work, because we are healthy, and then we can make income to take care of things for them. So it provides us with the ability to be able to protect our income. If we die, the income that we bring into the house will be protected by the tax-free death benefit that goes to them. God forbid, if we get sick, The income that we bring into the house will be protected by tax-free living benefit for critical illness, chronic illness, or even long-term care that can go to us and then be able to take care of things for our family. If we get into retirement and we want to be able to take care of ourselves, the income that we get from tax-free access to our money, whether through withdrawals or loan, can also be able to protect us and provide for us in retirement. And ultimately, there's protection from lawsuit. So if you declare bankruptcy or somebody were to sue you, the monies that you have in life insurance, cash value are protected from those places. You need to check with the state where you belong to see how each of them work differently. You can use the money in your cash life insurance in case of emergency. You can use it to be able to plan college fund for your children, just like we show in Baby, $1 Million Baby. You can use it to plan for your own retirement. If you want to leave a legacy, because that's what we're talking about here, you can leave a significant amount of legacy for people. You can talk about business solutions if you want to use it to do business solution. As I come towards the end of my presentation today, I want us to think about the 3 different phases of wealth building. In this life, the real reason why we're working today is for us to be able to take care of our responsibilities today, but at the same time, we're preparing for the time when we cannot work again, which is called retirement. So many people are saving, investing, and putting money away for the future. That is the accumulation phase. If you think about how taxes affect your wealth, you have an understanding of how things are going to look by just understanding how taxes can take away things for you. And then it changes everything 100%. What do I mean by that? Think about this. If you are paying taxes on accumulation every year, how much wealth can you build into the future? But if you can compound money without paying taxes using tax-deferred instrument, when you want to take money out of your assets, you don't pay taxes in it as well. What does that do for you? It helps you to think about things a little bit differently. And lastly, let's talk about estate transfer. What about if you can transfer money directly into the hands of the people that you care about without having to think too much about how, they're going to get it? Should we not have a strategy for all of these different, phases? How and why is this possible? It is in the Internal Revenue, Code and the tax law that the government, provides for us. For example, when you're accumulating, you don't pay any form of taxes. Section 72E says you can grow your money tax deferred in an instrument like life insurance. When you want to distribute the money to yourself, Section 7702 says you can have access to it tax-free using some strategies like wash loan and withdrawals below your ACB. Or when you want to transfer the money finally to whoever your beneficiary or legacy that you want to build, you can also transfer. Section 101A talk about how you can transfer money tax-free in America today. So this, for me, is the basis of the things that I want to talk to you about when it comes to talking about, life insurance, IRA, and, how we can build legacy wealth. I want to remind you one thing. The real business that you need to focus on is, how do I take care of those 3 phases: the accumulation, the distribution, and then the ultimate transfer to everybody in a more tax-effective and tax-efficient way. I hope that this last 1 hour that we spent together has been of great help to you and your finances. The real benefit of this is when you begin to think about this and taking responsibility and taking action into the future. I hope that you take action about your future and begin to do something for yourself today. Imagine what 20, 30, 40 years from today will look like for you if you do the right thing from now on. Thank you and enjoy the rest of, your day.